When it comes to French desserts, is there anything more iconic than a classic crème caramel? If you're not familiar with it, it is a baked custard dessert swimming in the most delicious caramel sauce. And I'm gonna give you all of my top tips to achieving a fantastic crème caramel. For my ramekins, I'm using a clear ramekin because I really love to be able to see through it. And you'll see why at some critical parts. And the other tip that's important is to spray your ramekins with a little bit of baking spray, because this caramel does get very sticky and it will help them release. Then you also want to place your ramekins in a little roasting pan because we are going to bake these custards in a bain-marie, which is just to say we're going to fill hot water in our roasting pan about halfway up, and that is just going to provide a really nice gentle heat, which is going to create the most delicious soft custard, which is what we are after. So you want to get your pot on a medium-high heat, and then we're going to add a cup of white sugar and a 1/4 cup of water. Then just stir that up until the water and the sugar is combined. Hopefully in this camera you can see what I'm doing. You see the bubbling? This is how you want to go about it. You want to let it nice and bubble, keep moving it around until it gets nice and amber. Because if you don't get it brown enough, then your caramel sauce isn't going to be very caramely and it's just going to look like sugar water when you take it out of the ramekin. And if you go too far with it, it'll have like a bitter burnt taste that really you'd have to start all over again. So just keep going. It's a great way to get a facial too. Gets kind of steamy. And see, now I'm almost there. I have a really beautiful caramel, but I just want to get a little bit more color on it. So what I'm going to do is lower my heat and just kind of swirl it around and lift it up, and swirl it around and lift it up just to get a little bit more color on it, but not burn it. And then when it's done, it'll settle down like this. It won't be so foamy. Then at this point, you can take your hot caramel and fill your ramekins. See, this is another reason why I like the clear ramekins, because I can see how much caramel sauce each ramekin has really easily to make sure that it's evenly distributed. So now we just want to allow these to cool. We don't want to put our cream mixture in this scalding hot caramel mixture. This has to actually be nice and cool and a little bit hard or tacky to the touch. Now, before you make the custard base, you want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, about 160 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, if the heat is too high and we don't do the bain-marie, then our custards are going to be overbaked pretty quickly and baked sort of unevenly. And if you've ever had a custard that had like little bubbles in it, you could see along the sides, that means that the temperature was too hot or they just baked too long. All right, now for the custard base. So you want to add a 1/4 cup of whole milk, and then you also want to add a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. I like the combination of the two because I think you get the richest, most luxurious custard. I find if you use all milk, the custard is not as firm and not as delicious, unfortunately so. And then you also want to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And at this stage, we just want to heat the milk and the cream and let that sugar dissolve. Now, we're just going to let the milk cool for a little bit while you whisk up the eggs. So in a large bowl here, I'm going to crack in 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks. I really think that this is the perfect ratio of eggs. 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks for, again, just the most beautiful textured custard. That's not too wobbly, not too firm. It's like perfectly in the middle. Then you also want to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Then we're going to add a good pinch of salt just to boost that flavor of the vanilla. So I like the vanilla extract over using the bean in this situation, because the whole beauty of the creme caramel is when you flip it over and you can see that beautiful caramel top. And when I've used the bean, all those little seeds collect at the bottom, which means they're going to collect at the top when you go to flip it over, which just looks a little unsightly. And then go ahead and whisk it up. At this stage, our milk is all ready to go. And we are going to temper these eggs a little bit by just adding just a little bit of the milky cream mixture, just to bring those eggs up to temperature so that we don't scramble them. And then once we add a little, we can add a little bit more until we can add the whole thing. We are after a delicious and decadent custard, which means we have to do some straining. So just put a fine mesh sieve over a 4-cup Pyrex pitcher, and then we are just going to pour it in here like so. And then you can see what we've caught in our little strainer here. little pieces of egg that actually cooked, some scalded milk. So we don't want any of that in our custard. So now we are guaranteed that we have a beautiful, smooth mixture. Now we can fill the ramekins, and I go almost all the way up to the top. You should have about 1/4 of an inch left. Then go ahead and pull out your oven rack, place your roasting pan on the rack so that you can get to it easily, then fill it with the boiling water, about halfway up the ramekins. That's a little bit safer than trying to fill your roasting pan with the hot boiling water and then trying to move it into your oven. You want to bake your custards for at least 40 minutes. I would start there and then start to check on them. They should jiggle slightly but look set. So depending on what type of ramekin you're using, I'm using one that's not that deep. If you have one that's maybe smaller but deeper, like a true custard cup, it could take up to 50 minutes. And then once they look set and done, you can go ahead and pull them out and let them rest on your cooktop in the water bath, because they will continue to set that way with the hot water. As soon as the water is cool enough to handle, about 15 minutes or so, then you can take them out of the water bath, dump out the water, put them back into your roasting pan, let them cool completely, and then pop them in the fridge. There's no need to cover them, because covering them will just give them a condensation, and we don't want that. One tip for you, these desserts work really well on a dessert plate like this that has a little bit of a recessed center to it, because that will allow the caramel sauce someplace to go, so it doesn't splash all over the plate. Get yourself a little paring knife, something like this that doesn't have any serrated edge to it, and then gently loosen the custard from the ramekin. Then put the plate over the ramekin and give it a flip. All right, and see, this is another reason why I like the clear ramekins, because I can see what's happening in here. I can see if it's loosening, and it is, and then lift it up gently. There. Ta-da! Ooh, look at that. That looks so delicious, doesn't it? All right, should we give it a taste? Oh, this looks so good. This is one of my favorite desserts. All right, here we go. That is so delicious.